David. David.
He's falling in a beautiful swirling pattern.
David.
What is up, everyone? My name is David Wells, and this is the David Wells Experiment. So I'm doing an experiment today, lol. Normally I drive to church and I've got music playing in the background or a podcast or something. But this time around, I've decided to do a podcast myself. So I don't have a whole ton... Actually, that's not true. I was about to say I don't have a lot of experience with recording audio in cars, but it just came to mind several projects where I've done just that. The first time I did, no surprise, the first time I tried recording audio in a car, it didn't go as I expected it to. As soon as we got into, the first time I worked with lapel mics, and I was doing a scene in a car, when we got to the highway, that's when the background noise became intolerable, where I just could not tell what the speakers were trying to say. So there was a scene when they got to a stoplight and they turned onto like a regular road. The audio was discernible, so I used that take, and then I just used a bunch of B-roll footage for that particular scene. And yeah, that was my first experiment. Second experiment was 2017. I did some interviews with my mom. Well, she led the interviews. I just filmed and edited them. I still need to release like a lot of them. I passed the lapel mic audio through filters, and it seemed to work pretty good. So one reason why I'm not totally scared of AI. But speaking of AI, I'll touch on this, and I promise it won't be the full thing of the episode. And I know I always say, like, this episode is going to be short, but today this episode actually is going to be, because it is just going to be the length of how long it takes me to get from my house to church, which is roughly 15 minutes. And I might take the long way simply because I've got time to. By the time I get to church, I'll probably even have 5 or 10 minutes, which is always good. And the person in front of me he was driving a bit slow, but Sunday, so there's a sign in my neighborhood that says free stuff and then gives the address. Alrighty, I'm going. But anyway, yeah, so I feel like that's how like a horror movie could start off or something. Anyway, AI, yeah. So as of this podcast, there's currently not only a writer's strike, which has been going on for a bit, but also an actor's strike. And apparently, in relation to one of my favorite filmmakers, Chris Nolan, his actors were at the premiere, but once they got word of the strike, they disappeared. And Chris Nolan, to his great credit, he was like, you might be observing that our actors are all gone. So I guess part of the stipulation of an actors guild when the guild decides to go on strike, or the union, sorry if I don't know the proper terminology, is that they can't do any promotion for the film. Which, I mean, that makes sense. Without getting into the intricacies and details of it, which admittedly I know very little about. But anyway, so one of the things I've heard about like the writer's strike and the actor's strike is when streaming came along, there wasn't sort of a precedent for giving residuals to writers and actors. Because when it was TV, when something got played back, you could get residuals, meaning you get just a little bit of money for each time it gets played, and that's how that system worked. With streaming, when it was new, the big corporations, and I'm doing a really bad job of summarizing it, but they're like, well, technically it's not TV, it's streaming, and they use some crafty language about rights and like paying residuals. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, and to their, I don't know if I should say to their credit, but they tried to circumvent this by, I think, they would just pay them really big amounts of money for the roles to try to offset what they might lose in residuals. I know that in like movies and theatrical releases, they do something like that. And that was one of the points of why Scarlett Johansson sued Disney when Black Widow got released on Disney Plus and the theatrical circuit, because there was supposedly a ton of money that she lost out on because she had a deal where she'd get a portion of what the money was making in theaters, and she lost out on that. But her and Disney settled that, and yeah, things are good between them. Also, like, from what I hear, like, while there's a lot of focus being made on like the big actors, the ones with mansions and Maseratis and all these luxuries, they're like not most actors. Like, the strikes, from what I've heard, it's about more affected are the little guys. The actor, they need the residuals to pay their rent or their car, and they need the residuals to pay their rent or their car insurance or their health insurance, or put their kid in school. Like, the people who they get enough work that they can just survive. And like, I know there might be some people saying like, well, get a real job. And that's the really cynical approach, but acting is a real job. I mean, one of the things I feel like is, how many of us turn to works of art to like get through COVID? I mean, I'm sure we had the health aspect, and that is a very significant thing, but a lot of us were, I think the biggest damage done by COVID was the societal aspect of, you can't interact with people the way you normally would, and there was like an emotional void. And some people have even hypothesized one of the reasons why Vladimir Putin went kind of cuckoo and up to the ante in regards to Ukraine, because he was always kind of that way, but he kind of went off the deep end, and yeah, we all know how that's going. And some people have said that one of the reasons he did go off the deep end was because he was so isolated, because he was afraid of getting COVID, that isolation just brought to the forefront and really strengthened some of his less than desirable traits. That's as diplomatic as I can put it, because one of the things Spotify doesn't want you to do is wade into too controversial topics. So they let you say whatever you want, but also they're like, oh, don't do anything that'll rustle feathers. And it's like, I'm not that type of person, but just because I'm not a Joe Rogan or a Kevin Smith or anybody, I got to be more careful, because I think I have 29 followers on Spotify and 5 of them who are like active listeners. Kudos to Spotify for their analytics. Those are really good. Anyway, what else? It's funny, I'm taking the long route, and I'm using a route that makes me drive by what used to be a Taco Bell KFC combo, and those always seemed dubious to me. I remember when those came out, it was like, oh, that's cool. But then we quickly realized it's not really that cool, because they have twice as large a menu, and they have to be acquainted with twice as much stuff. I think every now and then I would see a Taco Bell, KFC, and then a Pizza Hut combo. But the Pizza Hut combo, whenever they threw Pizza Hut into the mix, it was the most obviously watered down version of Pizza Hut's menu. I always felt like the pizza was like basically bread, cheese, and sauce. Like it would make Little Caesars look like a Michelin star restaurant. Which apparently, interesting story about the Michelin star rating system. Supposedly it was, and I only saw this on a meme on Instagram, but if it's true, then this is crazy. Supposedly, the Michelin star rating system for restaurants was started by Michelin, and they would choose restaurants that were sort of far out of the way that a person really would have to drive to. And they would give them good ratings, and the idea being that you would hear about the restaurant from Michelin and think, oh man, they're so awesome. And you'd have to drive there, and more driving means more wear and tear on your tires. And so you would think of the Michelin tire brand, and you would need to get your tire replaced. So, I mean, that's pretty sneaky. But, it's almost Machiavellian. Although Machiavelli is like, yeah, probably not Machiavellian, but it's like, oh man, we thought you were talking about food and how good it is, but I guess it's clever. I don't know. The caffeine has not quite set in for me yet. It is currently 10:15, and even the long way to church is giving me plenty of time to talk to y'all. I know yesterday I was talking in a podcast about an audacious goal of, by the end of Sunday, having recorded 5 podcasts, maybe 2 from Saturday, and then 3 from Sunday, totaling 5, or possibly do 7, like 2 from Saturday and 5 from today. I don't know what I would talk about necessarily, but I feel it only benefits me when I do this podcast. At the very least, it keeps the gears turning. I talked to my sister, and she says, like, it really surprises me how I'm going to take a slightly different route, because there's some construction going on the way that I usually go to church. So this will be fun. Anyway, back to my sister. She said, you and Mom have this unique ability of just talking on and about certain subjects and telling stories. And she's like, and I just don't have that. And it's one of those things where it's like I kind of feel like, how do you not have that? Or I may have taken a wrong turn, but it's okay, 'cause it's 10:17 right now. I'll just have to make a loop. But anyway, ooh, slightly rough road. But anyway. Ooh. I may or may not go visit my grandpa's gravesite today. If you ever feel like, if you're ever there, I think it's called the Fort Sam gravesite. It's in San Antonio, Texas, along Wurzbach. If you ever want to go by there and say hello, it's in section 59 and his grave number is 859. And his name is Robert Dewey Wells. Okay, here we go. I guess because this isn't a route I normally take, I missed it. But that's cool. I heard some rumors that Robert Downey Jr., I guess saying my grandpa's legal first name caused me to think of this. Robert Downey Jr. was seen on the set, allegedly, of the latest Captain America movie, which has Anthony Mackie taking over the role of Captain America, having assumed the mantle in Falcon and Winter Soldier. So that's cool. I have a feeling it's just a rumor, because we always keep hearing about, like, oh, Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU. And it always turns out to be wrong. But, you know, what can we say other than thank you for what you did during your tenure as Iron Man? We wish you the best, and yeah. I'm kind of astounded that I can talk as much as I do with the caffeine not seeping in just yet. I am just about there. But anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yes, AI. Man, I keep going all over the place. So one of the things that people are worried about, which I'm not so worried about, or maybe I won't be worried about yet, is they're worried about, I think the writers' strike, they're worried about AI being used to write scripts. And I feel like unless the studios build the infrastructure to write their own AI that'll write scripts, I don't think that'll happen, because I tried it. I used ChatGPT. I've had them write scripts before, and it almost takes as much work to write a scene as it does to give the AI the proper prompts and directions it needs to write something you like. And it has certain protocols and parameters that keep it from writing certain things, even if you're like, well, it's in the context of fiction. So, yeah, that's one reason why I'm not too worried about Chat GPT or AI writers. But apparently, it is a big enough deal that the writers' unions or guilds or whatever, they are worried. So, hey, at least they're taking preemptive action, right? Now, for the actors, particularly the smaller guys, the people who, again, it's their equivalent of a 9 to 5, there is talk of, that one thing studios were thinking of doing was basically scanning actors and then using their images in perpetuity, basically forever, and not having to worry about paying them again, because they just have them on file and they could just drop an actor into a scene as a background extra and they wouldn't have to pay them residuals. And that is easily, not cool. I mean, it'd be one thing if they were able to, we'll offer you a compensation package, but they don't even have that. Well, I'm here at church. I've got maybe 5 minutes before everything starts, so I'm going to go in now. But this was the David Wells Experiment. Have an absolutely super day. I hope all your dreams come true, and I will see you next time. Bye.